Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It is a pleasure to welcome to the program Luis Feliz Leon, staff writer at Labor Notes, which I should say a regular read of all of ours here at the Majority Report. Cannot recommend it enough. And Alicia Ozier, a worker at the Amazon delivery station in Pontiac, Michigan. Welcome to both of you. Alicia is on by phone. Alicia, let's start with you. Give us a sense of how long you've been working at Amazon. What led up to this labor action during Prime days, I guess, which is like their Amazon's biggest, busiest, I guess, moments of the year, maybe short of Christmas, but maybe even more so.
Certainly. Thank you for having me on the show. So I've been with Amazon for a year and 9 months now. And the big lead up was we have been doing different actions, making demands, telling them our needs, telling them what we need and what we want from them. We've done a petition of our demands, which they refused. They refused to meet with us collectively, and they wanted to meet with us individually, which is a way to divide and conquer. We made demands for a higher pay, for safety first, always. For sick time, we don't get sick time. We have to use our PTO, which is paid time off, or UPT, which is unpaid time when we're ill, or you have to go on a leave of absence, which is completely unpaid. We wanted to stop the illegal use of our UPT time. They take our UPT time out in hour increments. If we're 2 minutes late, they take it out in an hour. We wanted them to be fair, take it out in true time or take it out in 15-minute increments. We wanted them to stop the 3-year wage cap. The evaluation, they do an evaluation once a year to determine if we will get a wage increase. We were asking that they stop doing these things and just treat us fairly and justly. And no response, no type of nothing on these issues. You know, they gave us little parties, they gave us little snacks, and we played games, but nothing pertaining to these issues. And that's what led us and got us to the point where we're at now.
Luis, give us a sense of what else has been going on simultaneously as these folks went on strike, 60 warehouse workers for 3 hours in Pontiac. There was something else happening in California as well. Were there other actions that were being taken? I mean, Prime days, I guess, is sort of like prime time to stage a labor action. You're going to have the most impact.
Right. Absolutely. So for the past years, Amazon workers across the country have staged walkouts during Prime Day to highlight demands that they're trying to push to improve their working conditions. So Alicia and her coworkers are part of a my daughter has just joined the call.
Yeah. I understand. No worries. Been there many times.
So workers across the country are trying to take Amazon down 1,000 cuts at a time. It's almost like a guerrilla insurrection. So the efforts that you are seeing in Michigan are also efforts that are building up in places like Atlanta, in Philly, in New York, in Palmdale. So workers from Palmdale who have been on an unfair labor practice strike for nearly a month now have been traveling the country and joining picket lines, bringing their picket lines to Amazon facilities, talking to workers at those facilities about why Amazon unjustly retaliated against them and fired them. So the upshot here, the punchline is that this is a big movement that has been building up for some time. And now with UPS Teamsters having reached a deal with UPS, the vote members still need to vote on this tentative agreement that they've won. But the sites are on Amazon next for the Teamsters.
Interesting. And Alicia, give us a sense of like of your seniority in amongst your cohort of workers there, and in terms of like how long a year and a half is relative to other workers. And I'm curious as to like your sense of what's happened since you took those actions in terms of how it's impacted both your fellow workers and management.
Okay. So we too were on a ULP strike for unfair labor practices. And in terms of the seniority, anyone having seniority, it's a turnover rate. It's like a revolving door. They may hire in 100 people, and out of 100 people, you may get 10, sometimes 20 to stay. We've actually taken bets on how many people are going to stay because the turnover rate is that high. It is ridiculous. So when you have seniority, we call ourselves veterans, having only been there for a year and 9 months.
Wow. And that sounds like, is that a function of just like how difficult the work is, the working conditions?
Yes, because it is very strenuous, very hard work. So we're required to be able to lift 50 pounds. What you're not told is that you're lifting pounds for about 8.5 hours out of your day, constantly. Wow. I mean, it may not be exactly 50 pounds consistently for the entire time, but it is heavy packages, boxes, all the things that everyone's ordering from Amazon. We're touching those packages for 8.5 hours. The desks, the car parts, the cases and cases and cases of water, the dog food, and it's just exhausting and tiring to our bodies.
Alicia, yeah, can you just give us a sense of what it's like after a long day working there? What it feels like, your body, the toll that it takes?
Exhaustion. Like right now, I'm sore from head to toe, especially my back and my legs. And I've come home. I'll eat something, I'll take a shower, and that's it. The rest of my day is shot because I'm trying to recuperate because I have to go back to work tonight. Now, God forbid if I had to work multiple jobs, which is the case with most employees at Amazon. They're working multiple jobs because the pay is just not adequate. So in that sense, I'm not even sure how they're managing because the days when I can't come home and go to sleep, I am struggling. So and there have been a time when I've actually had to pull over my car driving home from work and park.
So how did people react to in the wake of the strike? And by people, I mean your fellow workers and management there.
The workers, everyone's all fired up and geared up. It's just an electricity in the air inside the plant, because we feel like we're doing the right thing. We know we're doing the right thing. We support the Palmdale workers. We support the other Amazon workers because it's not just us. It's all the Amazons across the country, as Louise said. So we're in full support. We're geared up. We're ready to do whatever it is that we have to do. From the management standpoint, at this point, there are so many managers in our building. It's for some, it is very intimidating. It's like triple the amount of managers that you would normally see in a workplace. There's at least, if I just had to guess at a number, I'd say 20 managers walking around, if not more.
Well, it's interesting you say that because that was one of the concessions in the UPS or what was gained in the UPS negotiations, because managers would just go on ride-alongs like in without any notice, essentially, because having the presence of the managers there, especially when you guys are making your voices heard, it's meant to be this intimidation factor.
Exactly. They're cornering employees and questioning them. We're having captive audience meetings. They're asking, what is it that you all really want? What is it that you all are trying to gain? they've even asked some people, you know, have you actually signed anything? Have you gone to any meetings? All of these are illegal activities.
Alicia, are these people from the area? And I guess maybe this is also a half a question too for Luis. Luis, does Amazon now have like a team, like some type of SWAT team, that when there is some type of labor action in an area, they'll send in this extra squad of managers who are specifically there to both like assess how they can undermine like, you know, sort of, I guess, organizing efforts, and also, you know, keep an eye on, you know, who they might, I mean, I guess just undermining organizing efforts. Alicia, let's just start with you. Do you have a sense of where these managers are from?
They seem to be from all over the country. We've got people in from Texas, from Arizona, from Missouri, from New York, from Maryland, just from everywhere. And yes, I do get the sense and the feel from their actions and from their conversation that they are there as union busters.
Luis, have you run into this in other sort of like jurisdictions in Amazon world?
Yes, absolutely. So when workers filed for an election at the sortation center in Staten Island, New York, LDJ5, there were union busters that had been brought over from the Bessemer campaign in Alabama. So yes, so these people travel from warehouses across the country where they get a whiff of a union campaign to squash it. So yeah, they're very coordinated. You know, there's this Noam Chomsky like quote that I think about all the time, which is that the ruling class are vulgar Marxists with opposite commitments. They know what they want and they coordinate together to get it through the Business Roundtable, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Republican and Democratic parties, right? Like with the UPS contract fight, we saw that the Chamber of Commerce put out a statement asking Joe Biden to intervene, right, on behalf of Wall Street. With Amazon, we're seeing that level of coordination as well, right? They're fighting a coordinated battle against workers like Alicia across the country. So the antidote, and what's been beautiful to see with these rolling pickets nationwide, is this beautiful of solidarity, sending Amazon, UPS, an unmistakable message. These companies are competitors, but their workers are not. They are part of this, you know, powerful working class that is in motion, that is making its voice heard. And that's what we're seeing all over the country.
Alicia, before we let you go, what is, are you guys starting to talk about unionization within the context of this? Or is it, I mean, what are the next steps for you and your fellow workers there?
We are going to continue to rally together. We are going to continue to make our demands heard to try and get a better workplace, a better work environment, a safer work environment, higher pay. We're going to continue to try and get these things, and we're going to do whatever it takes. We're supported by a lot of groups, including the Teamsters, and we're in it for the long haul.
Well, Alicia, Ozier, thank you so much for your time. We'll let you go, but really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about it, and good luck, and let's stay in touch for the next one.
Solidarity, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Okay. Luis, we just got a couple of minutes here, but I wanted to talk to you. Obviously, we had booked you before the big news yesterday that there was a tentative agreement with the Teamsters and UPS. The Teamsters, you know, in their press release, call it historic. There's only so much that we really have a sense of, you know, from the outside as to how this is going to be received and what the fine print is. Nobody's seen that yet. But broad strokes, is it historic? I mean, we're talking about obviously one of the largest, if not the largest, unionized workforce in the country. So in many respects, like, you know, historic is it's going to be historic, you know, I guess in that sense. But in terms of like the concessions that they appeared to have gotten, right, without having looked at the language, is historic the right adjective?
I mean, I think that's a great question, right? So I think some framing is helpful. So over the past contract cycles, the leaders that were at the helm of the Teamsters would put out a press release and call any subpar contract historic. So rank and file Teamsters recoil when they hear the word historic, just because that's what they've experienced, right? And there's some justified skepticism because of that history. But since 2013, rank and file workers have gotten into gear to elect new leadership, to build up networks of resistance throughout the country, to fight on the shop floor. Just this past week, workers in Boston staged a job action where they turned their backs on managers.
We played that. I think it was in Norwood. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It rocked.
So, right. So that's the sentiment out there. Like, workers are ready to fight. The expectations of this contract campaign are through the roof. So right now, what we are seeing is that members may be, you know, when they see this TA and they review it, they may say, hey, we want more. That's for the members to decide if that's where they're at. But if we look at the contract from 2018, this far outpaces anything that workers had won in that contract. If anything, workers gave up so much in that contract. So there are gains, and big gains. And in that sense, it is historic. It is historic because we cannot discount, even if like this contract doesn't check off all the boxes, that this was something that workers won. One conversation in a parking lot from Indiana to Maine to Rhode Island to Massachusetts to New York, Ohio, all over the country, California, people have been having these conversations with one another, telling them, hey, this is what the company is going to do. They're going to divide us as package car drivers against the part-timers. Here's the tactic, how we overcome that. That is amazing. You know, for a leader, even if the most top-down union cannot achieve that level of mobilization, if it wanted to, it has to come from the rank and file. And the rank and file have truly stepped up. And I think the greatest historic aspect of this campaign has been that mobilization that has happened among the rank and file.
Has that, I mean, we got to have you back to talk about this at length. Maybe we'll do it. I know that on the 31st, in 5 days, the locals are going to be sending two leaders from each local to go and take a look at the contract and come back and make their assessment of it. But on this theme of the rank and file, is this a function of, and you can answer D, I guess, but A, the growing sort of like, and I've noticed this in other unions too, caucuses within the union that are becoming the growth of more radical caucuses within the union structure. In this instance, I think it's the Teamsters for a Democratic Union. Is it a change, like a generational change, where younger people are coming in with a different perspective on labor management dynamics? Is it COVID? Is it D, all above?
All right. I'm not going to give you the checklist answer. I'm going to say this. A constellation of factors have converged to strengthen the hand of workers at the bargaining table, right? These include the fact that contracts are expiring at the same time. So we see that the screenwriters are on strike, right? Airline flight attendants with American may be out on strike. So this is the moment that we're in. This is a serendipitous
people have models of other people taking these type of risks, and it makes them more apt to feel like they're in an environment where what they're doing is not so crazy after all, type of thing.
Right. And then there's a turbocharged, wealth inequality that has eroded living standards. There's severe weather events. My article in the American Prospect talked about, winning air conditioning. That was a big win for these workers. Widespread anger over the aftershocks of the still raging pandemic, and then the exorbitant corporate profits. Now, what's the key ingredient in all of this? we have experienced bad times before, but you need organization. You need rank and file organization. And the secret weapon here has been Teamsters for a Democratic Union. Teamsters for a Democratic Union have been organizing against concessions, defending pensions for decades. So that's why it's important to take the long view and see, how did we get to this moment? Well, there was a group of people who have experience, that have done this before, that shared those tools with a rank and filer alone in the middle of Ohio with a hostile leadership, telling them, what's so hard about going on strike? You just hold a picket sign. Well, you know, people have fear. You got to overcome that fear if you're going to strike. So that it's not as simple as that. So it takes organization. And unlike in previous contract cycles where the administration, the international, has been hostile to reformers and caucuses, that has not been the case. So O'Brien and team deserve credit for what they've done in helping facilitate this and advance it. So it started, the practice pickets, as I say in my article, started with TDU, but they broke out of that, right?
Interesting.
So
all right, well, Luis, we got to have you back, because I really do think this broader conversation, the UPS strike for the moment seems to be averted, but like you say, we've got airline pilots who are talking. We've got you know, perhaps something happened on the Amazon front. There's this summer of strike still may be upon us, but certainly there's a shifting labor dynamic, and I think I'd love to have a longer conversation with you about it. In the meantime, I can't again recommend Labor Notes more to folks. It's a great way. It's a huge and valuable source for us here. Really appreciate the work you've been doing there. And thanks for coming on and talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.